We would like to invite on stage the facilitator for the Fireside Chat, Ms. Vinita Venkatesh, Managing Director, Ocean to Door Cargo Logistics Company, followed by our esteemed panelist, Dr. Aprajita Bharadwaj, psychologist and trainer, non-technical skills for merchant marine officers, Ms. Reshma Nilofer, maritime pilot at Kolkata Port Trust, Ms. Chaitali Mehta, convener, Women's Wing Federation of Freight Forwarders Association in India and director, EKF Global Logistics Private Limited, Captain Girish Padnis, director and country head, MTM Ship Management India Private Limited and chairman, MASA. Followed by Captain Dinesh Jairam, Global Talent Acquisition Manager at Seaspan's Crew Management, India Private Limited. Captain Dinesh Jairam. I request all the panelists to please take your seats. Do we have Captain Amol here? Captain Amol from Manit? Do we have him here? So before we begin our session, we'll hear a few thoughts from Captain Amol from Manit and then move to the session. So would you like to take it up later? All right, not a problem. So now the stage is all set for the fireside chat, and the facilitator, Ms. Vinita Venkatesh, can take it ahead. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Radhika, also for facilitating everything and coordinating with us. Thank you, Captain Chadda, for being such a crusader for the betterment of women in maritime. Normally we have a lot of these functions which are hosted or initiated by women-based organizations. And it's really nice when a mainstream maritime organization is giving so much importance to development of women in maritime. So thank you for that. I'd like to welcome our panelists here. And folks, just imagine that there's a fire here, right? So this is a fireside chat. Like we are all cozily sitting around a fire with the men in minority and the women in majority on this in this forum for once. So just to start off, I'm going to say that, when I joined, I'm going to share a little bit story about myself. When I joined the Shipping Corporation of India, and I had to board. So I was a new bride, right? So I was all chamak challo with all my bangles and my sarees and stuff like that. And then I had to board our vessels which used to come to Chennai to load granite cargo. And that's when I realized that it was so difficult for me to have to hitch a sari or to have a dupatta which might get caught in the ladder. And so I had to change my way of dressing after, of course, respectfully making my mother-in-law understand why I'm not wearing a dupatta anymore while going to work. And that small change that I had to make was so big for me to manage in my family that when I look at today's stories of women who are at the helm of cargo ships, I know we are talking about 1.2% of seafarers being women, but those are primarily on passenger vessels and ferries. But when you hear stories of ladies who are aboard cargo ships with very few people there, mostly men, and I'm thinking that hats off. Look at the torchbearers they are for all of womankind and all of womankind in maritime. And therefore, I feel that this topic is so relevant because when you have such a torchbearer, when you have a lady who has fought against all odds and is there on board the vessel, right? We have one right here, sitting here with us, Reshma. So when you have somebody like that who has slain devils and crossed fires of hell and finally got on board a vessel, I think all of us owe it to her to give her a fair career path, give her a level playing field with the men to reward her courage. And that's what this panel is going to talk about today. How do we make it worthwhile for women who have taken up assignments as seafarers? How do we give them a good career path? And do we need to do something different for them? Is that the way forward, to give them a separate career path? Now, before we start the discussion, I want you all to just look at the topic of today's discussion, which is about equality and equity. And I know all of us are very familiar here, but just for the sake of clarification, I want to spell out that distinction. So equality is when you give a lady or anybody the opportunity to do a job, and equity is to make sure that she is able to perform in that job. So for example, in today's session, we have this podium, which is here, and you're inviting a lady to talk at the podium. So that's equality. And this little platform here is what gives her equity, because she's shorter in height, but you're allowing her to perform well by giving her this little platform, right? Similarly, when a lady joins a vessel, it's equality because you gave her a job. Whether the boiler suits are of her size, whether the safety shoes are of her size, that's equity. So I'm going to dive right into this now, and let's ask Reshma, who is a Braveheart lady pilot of Kolkata and Haldia Port Trust, to share some of her practical experiences on how does it feel to be a lady in a man's world aboard a vessel.
Very good evening to everybody. Thank you to Marex for this platform. And I'm happy to be talking about, you mentioned that these things are usually brought up by women, but now I'm also happy that the room is filled with a lot of men finally listening to what we are going to speak. So that's very encouraging. Now, coming to practical difficulties, which as a woman going on board, I see that ships were built for men. You know, many of the ships where I have to go on or even from the bridge windows, I'm 5'2", I struggle to just look out. Even at the bridge wing, there is a huge height difference where I'll have to really go, peek out and see the ship's side, So there are a lot of practical difficulties, whether we like it or not. But yes, for equity, we need to look at a lot of issues at hand, wherein number one stands the maternity discrimination in our field. That is the number one problem, and that is also why we cannot have sustainable employment of women in maritime still. We have a big number which is attributed to the maternity or post-childbirth dropout. That is because, one, women have, of course, it's an individual choice. Women have difficulties when it comes to support from the family and where the child can be left, and can they go back to sea, or would they want to transform or move to ashore options. But they have to be also capacity built to take up roles ashore. So the transition has to be made possible, avenues need to be given to them, and also if they want to go back at sea, are they taken back in the same rank? Because it is not common for men also to take a very long break when they are going for exams between the ranks. So when they go back on the same rank. But for the woman, we are put into a lot of questioning where the woman is asked if she can still remember things, or policies have changed, ISM, there are differences now, how can she be in touch with all that? So I'm saying that you can have a small bridge course for her to come back, or She can be given options to capacity build, diversify her skill set, get into the office should she want to transition to a show position. That's one. Another is we still do not talk about managing the menstrual waste on board. We do not send them ashore as biomedical waste. In the times of COVID, we have seen all our PPE suits were all given off to the shore facilities. Are we doing that with all ships when it comes to the menstrual waste? We do not talk about this yet, and I think it's a topic it needs to be taken up seriously and dealt with. And what else? Acceptance. This is a big no-no for us women because we have to keep proving ourselves at every step, at every rank, and it goes on and on. It's not like you've proven, you've come to this position, you are accepted. No. Every day, new ship. For me as a pilot, all the more, because it's a new multilingual, multicultural crew which I meet every day. So their acceptance comes after a long time. I think just like how a pilot transforms into a bridge team member within minutes, the same acceptance also should come within minutes. And we needn't have to go through such a lot of trouble to just make us be accepted as your team member.
I just wanted to add, Reshma, to what you said about biomedical waste. You know, good companies which have got processes in place for this. And like for example, us, we have processes of segregating, incinerating that on board. So that's really not an issue now. So maybe in the past, yes, it was, because nobody thought about it. But now there are proper processes outlined as a policy.
These are plastics I'm talking about.
Plastic is a different
With, yes, sanitary waste is plastic and biomedical waste. So I think show facilities, that could be a incineration, I don't think is the best option. So we need to discuss further on this, and the dialogue should start somewhere.
Thank you, Reshma, for those like little tips maybe that we have to take forward in our industry. And you know, you spoke about the practical difficulties that you face, especially with acceptance. So I'm now going to ask Dr. Aparajita. So what do the men feel? What do men seafarers think? What is their mindset when they have a lady colleague working with them?
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Captain Chadda. So I have been doing this gender sensitization training for MASA Chennai. And I've done about 5 training, and in all the batches, there were only men. So I do make them feel comfortable, and I tell them, just talk. What is in your mind? And 2-3 things they'd always say is, one is, a lot of apprehension, when they feel that, oh, a woman is going to join, first timers. But the ones who have sailed, who have had experience, they are comfortable. They don't have an issue. But some of them are the first timers. So a lot of apprehension is there. How are we going to deal with the lady? What should we say? What should we not say? They have heard a lot of stories, and the stories are, mostly the good stories are not spoken about. It's the negative stories which are spoken about. How, an innocent statement has been, magnified as harassment, and so those issues comes out very often. The other issue which comes out is, they will say, you talk about gender equality, and then you also talk about harassment. So if there are a male cadet and a female cadet, how do I treat them? Okay? If I have to shout at one, or if I have to pull up someone, how do I talk? So, if I talk to a male differently and I talk to a female differently, So the male says, you're discriminating, we are doing the same job, why are you talking to her differently? And if he treats them alike, and the way he knows, the ship language is a little different. So the woman says, you're harassing me. So they get very, when they hear that a woman is coming, so they get very scared. That's one thing. The thing is, some of them say we get very angry. Why is a woman coming here? What job she has, because it's all physical, it's tough, and it's out at sea, away from home, isolated. There are so many options available ashore. You can, go there. You can take up a shore job. Be in maritime, but why you're coming at sea? So the challenge is helping them to change the mindset, which is so fixed. And I do tell them that, what we talk about, a male mindset and a female mindset, it's been ingrained for centuries, okay? It's not 100 years and all, it's centuries. So till 100 years, the male and the female role in the society was very well, chalked out. It is only after industrialization, it's only after the World War I and II that women had started coming out. In India, it was the non-violent movement and freedom movement. These are the times when the women have come out of homes. Change is very sudden, and it's really, going at a galloping speed, and the men are not able to handle it. The other challenge is, shipping is a very isolated kind of a profession. You're not in the society. You have your own society, which is out at sea, and which has been there for number of years, Last 100 years, it's only men who are sailing, very few women. So the working conditions, mindset, how you deal with them, it's all very well, it's very much there, locked in their system. The irony is, when you are outside, you talk to women, you talk to your own family members, you want them to be independent and, manage things, and especially seafarers. They would want their family members to be independent, handle things by themselves because, he's sailing. But when it comes to the same thing in the job, then the mindset becomes very, different. So that's the challenge, and that's where we have to attack if we have to change the mindset and accept, that women are, they should be joining the ship and they should be working as equals. So, yes.
So, that's really throwing some light on. I read an interview of a lady seafarer, and she said that I was so nervous when I had to go on deck to lash the cargo, or when I had to go onto the lashing bridge to lash the cranes, and it took all my courage because I knew that everybody was watching me, all the main colleagues, and seeing if I will be actually able to come up to the task. So I'm going to ask now Captain Girish, given these two points of view that you've heard of the lady seafarers and the men seafarers, what is it that organizations and shipping companies are doing? What kind of policies do we have in place to give ladies a level playing field and give them an equitable chance at having a good career path?
Hi, thanks a lot. And of course, Marix, thank you, Kamal, he's not here, for this wonderful session. See, when we talk about women out at sea, things are progressing. I mean, things are changing as we move on. There are certain companies who are really taking the lead. I know for sure Karan is here. Maersk is doing an excellent job. Elegant does similarly, and there are lots of companies. Smaller companies like us have also started off. We have started taking seafarers not from India yet, but from a Manila outfit. So we've got cadets, we've got boat deck engine. Now, when you speak about salaries or equitable, I don't think there should be any difference whether it's a shore job out in the office or out at sea. we are talking about a person who is qualified and given a certificate of competency, and that is what is important. It is not about whether he or she, it's a he or a she, it's your certificate of competency. When we come on the shore side, we are doing the same thing in our office, at least we are following it. We have a career progression, we make plans for every person who joins our company, and that career progression is with the experience, number of years you have put in. And how would you be 5 years from today, 10 years from today, where would you reach? The promotions and the salary scales are the same, irrespective of whether you're a male or a female person in that job. You have to be qualified for that job, you perform for that job. So this is a very, this is a big change. And when we talk about lady seafarers getting opportunities ashore, see, there is a dearth of seafarers today when we come talk about the female seafarers. A lot of companies might be wanting to take cadets or trainees, and you're not getting them actually, unless you have a program where you have taken a whole batch. And we've seen some of the companies doing that. For us, we have already started recruiting people, girls, and they will start. Somebody in the previous session mentioned that companies are reluctant to take, and that is because of the points that you put forward. They're not geared up mentally, they do not know how to handle the situation, or they have not been able to come to terms with that fact. And it is only time which will change this whole approach and attitude. It has to change. I mean, that's one of the main things that we're all trying to do. Having said that, how do we attract girls to come into this profession? See, when we are doing these seminars, we are doing a lot of work trying to put forward a career. But I personally, this is my personal opinion, out there in society, people don't know about merchant navy. People are not aware what it takes. I had an opportunity through an organization called MAPS. Captain Halve is here, and we went to a couple of colleges where the senior management also did not have any clue what we are talking about. Then we had to go back to the basics. And the questions that came out, that just went to show that we have to do something that we are known in the public domain. We always have seminars, we have a lot of talk, but amongst the people who already know about it, most of them know what we are talking about. It's nothing new, but this is the first time I'm seeing a lot of people, and thank you, Marix, for this, not from our industry, which is very important. So we have to start inviting people of prominence, NGOs, to come and attend such seminars, for them to understand what maritime is all about. I think that's one of the ways forward.
Captain, I just wanted to ask you one thing. Reshma had raised a question regarding wage parity and regarding opportunities, loss of seniority, opportunities available after maternity. Could you throw some light on that?
Loss of seniority after a gap. It is entirely on the kind of procedures you have in the company. We have to be geared up for that. We have this issue. I've had issue with this on my previous company where we had a 4th engineer. She got married. She had a child. She came back. We took her back. Because what we did was, we made her go through courses. It was not that what she knows or what she didn't know, because she's already competent. She's been given that certificate of competency. We are not going to question her about her knowledge. She's there. She was there. So the question is, it's the attitude that you have. How do you face these issues? How do you tackle them? So I would feel this is a thing which depends from company to company. We cannot generalize this. Maybe a company A would have a policy of pushing back. Company B might assist, help. for that person, welcome the person back to move on, So it all depends.
Okay, thank you for that. Captain Dinesh, would you like to take this question about wage parity among women and men aboard? Because ashore, I can tell you that there's no wage parity, right? Men and women doing the same job in shipping companies on shore, there's no wage parity. How is the situation of seafarers aboard vessels? And also, can you share some of your experiences with regard to the attitude of the companies who are recruiting? Are they keen to take on ladies?
Yeah. Thank you, Vinita, and to Marex and all the lovely people who are here this evening. So as far as wage parity goes, there is normally no difference in most shipping companies, as far as I know. The wages are similar, whether irrespective of gender. And the second question, what exactly you wanted? Okay, all right. So, I wanted to share a survey, and that's what I mentioned to Vinita. It's a survey about, it's done by Cardiff University, 2 professors, and from the Seafarer Charity. They did a very focused, in-depth survey of 30 women. That's in March 2023. And 5 port-based officials. And I just wanted to share the results of the survey because it's important that we all know the issues that women face on board, and that will help us understand our problems. So one is the women have a minority status, and they experience exclusion on board. And that is exactly why we as shipping companies, whether ship owners or managers, need to do something more for them. Then men refuse authority of women seniors, creating management difficulty, and this in turn is assumed as a women lacking leadership. So that itself is very detrimental for their career. Then women always feel they're on the spotlight. They always need to prove all the time, and that really exhausts themselves. And this fear of sexual harassment complaints having a detrimental effect on their career. Locking and rigging second locks in the cabin doors, or barring mechanisms to block unwanted entry. Lack of seafarer centers ashore, which are managed by women. Generally, as of now, most of them are managed by men, for men. Then women's place is at home to cook and clean and develop a family, and finally, who will marry you? It's all part of the survey. I myself had the experience of having a cadet, an engine cadet, and her brother who was working in another company, and he used to always taunt her saying that, why are you here in this profession, and who's going to marry you? So she was very clear in what she wanted to do, and she said, you mind your business, I know who will marry me and I'll find my way. Then companies generally, when they want to take initiatives, they always want to target a large audience. And women per se are very small. So the companies are less interested, but they don't realize the potential and what they're missing. Then direct comments, insubordination, boys only jokes, because it's a man's world there. Viewing pornography in public, again, that's an issue on the ship. Then women are not built of glass, moving on deck outdoors. There are people who still feel that the women should be working only indoors, not outside. Then lack of support from colleagues. I'll also tell you a very short story about one of the cadets that I recruited with my experience. It's a story that she told me from her heart. When I asked her, why do you want to join sea? It's a man's world and things like that. And how was your journey? So what she told me is that her dad said absolutely no, you're not joining sea. Her mom said she was like 50-50, yes and no. So she went ahead and did all her tests. She got admission in a university. Finally, it was the day for her to join, and she booked the flights, not only hers, but without telling her parents, she booked her parents' flights as well. And then she kept convincing her parents till the last minute. And then finally, just a few hours before the flight, the parents relented. They all came to the campus. And then she joined as a cadet, and then she's sailing with us. So this is the focus that the women of today have. And when people have this focus and we can reach them, I'm sure we will achieve gender parity and what we're looking at, to some extent at least. You won't get 100% gender parity. It's going to take a very long time. But that's the way forward. So Vinita, thank you.
Thank you, Captain. So having heard from the seafaring angle, let's come to Chaitali here. She is a business owner, and she has done a lot of work on inclusivity for women. So Chaitali, would you like to share with us your thoughts on how to bring equity for women in maritime careers, and whether you feel that we need separate career paths, or is it possible to do even without?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Maddox, for this. Honestly, when I joined the industry, my venture into ocean started much later. So it's been only 20 years that I've been associated with ocean freight. But I'm an air cargo baby. And when I joined, we've always had women in logistics. But like I say, we've never had them at the top levels. If they were at the top levels, they were doing back-end jobs. They could be partners because license issues, or they could be doing finance or accounts-related work and all. But we've never had anybody handling operations. Nobody going out into the customs, going out, talking to the people, finding out what the problems were, solving the problems. That was typically for the men in the organization. The industry has always welcomed, but they didn't know what to do, because they typically thought that women will not be able to do the job. And I don't blame them, because when you are in the office and you're only doing documentation, or you are doing marketing or things like that, you are not out there in the forefront. You are not handling the shipments per se. You're not going to the ports or things like that. But now things have changed. We have a lot more women coming in. My company has always been different, because we've always had somebody heading the department, and invariably they have been women heading the department. My father, Harish Bhai, has always been a different person compared to what it was at that point of time. But even for me, when I joined, it was very, very different. There were times when I was told, you don't know what you're talking about. And it was true, because I didn't know operations at that point of time. I knew the other stuff. So to get the acceptance, which Reshma was talking about, it's not just for the women seafarers, but I think it's a perception, because let's face it, this has always been a man's industry. We've had women in this industry in the last 30, 40 years. I represent a lot of associations. In certain associations, I'm the first woman in 52 years. In certain associations, I'm a second woman in 85 years. In some places, what we are doing is still considered path breaking, and they go like, oh, you get people, you get women, it's so nice to see. There's nothing wrong with it. It's actually one of the safest industries. But I have to say that when you're comparing it with ocean, things are different, because now the ports that we have, they're not really they're not built for women. They don't have the facilities for women. I think I have a jinx, because every time I go to Nhava Sheva, I get lost. I'm always late for my meetings. So I tell people, please give me extra time, because I don't know where I am going. And I actually get lost. And I was just there. I've been going there for the last couple of days. And I look at these people and I go like, how do you expect a woman to work here? Because you don't have street lights in the evening. The roads are empty. Even if a woman wants to do transportation, and we do have a few women who own transport companies, you have women who have a passion for driving. They would want to become drivers. How are they going to protect themselves? It's not meant for it. We have to be practical, that there are a lot of things that need to be done. Even when you have so many women working in operations, do we have so many women handling cranes, or do we have women handling forklifts? You don't. I know somebody who, as a punishment, was put on the floor to work with the laborers and with the loaders and all, because she just refused to quit her job. She's one of the most strongest ladies that I know of, and this was 25 years ago. And she said, I'm not quitting. You can do what you want to do with me. And she had loaders who were drunk half the time. But courage to her, she made those guys around her respect her for her knowledge, because she's worked. She may not know how to drive a forklift, but she definitely knows how to make a ULD and how to make a pallet, because that was her job to decide, because she was working in reservations, she was working in operations. I have to say that, we don't need to be patronized. Not because if we come from a family business or we come from a family background, or if we come directly from colleges. I do agree with Captain here that a lot of people don't even know what logistics or maritime is all about. The only reason we've got importance, or I'm not going to say even importance, but we've got recognition a little bit, is because of COVID. If COVID had not happened, we were still going to be considered invisible, because a lot of times people asked me as to what was logistics, what is cargo, and what is it that you do. And I take great pride in telling them that we are the front runners. We are as important as the medical fraternity is, because if it was not for all of us combined together, the doctors would never get medicines to save lives. So we, as an industry, the maritime transport logistics industry, deserves the full recognition and the full support which is there. Having said that, there is a difference when you're a woman owner, because we have in our office menstrual days, we give them off. We don't mark them absent or things like that. And I don't know anybody else who does this. It's not something to gloat about, but it's just something which is so normal, because we all have bad days. If men have bad days, it's considered to be ghar pe jhagda ho gaya, work stress, bad boss, bad days, clients, this. But if it comes to women, oh, she's so aggressive, she's so moody. And for somebody like, I've been labeled aggressive half my life. And I go like, what the hell does even being aggressive mean? Does it mean doing a job as well as a man is? Being consistent because I want an account that somebody else wants an account, and I have waited 13 years for it. So does that make me, is not consistency important? The labeling is not right, and it does not have to be like that. We don't have paid, you very rightly said. I think everybody gets paid at offshore at the same rate, but we do need to have facilities where they take care of it. We've always had 75 to 80% women in our organization. I know that a lot of men are now doing things differently. There are systems being in place, but there is also a lot of hand-holding that needs to happen, because when I talk about mental health, or when I talk about, listen, what are you doing things to make women comfortable in your organization, people don't really know how to answer that. Still, there are places in India where I go, we don't have women. I mean, this is probably the first time in the longest time that we only have 2 men and we have more women here. I was just telling them that generally when I'm a panelist, it's all men and I'm the only one. Or if I'm a moderator, it's all men that I'm moderating, except for once that we did a full women panelist. So from the industry perspective also, they are open. I'm not going to say people are not scared. Everybody gets scared, because what if somebody falls? You break your leg, they will say, pair tod diya. Lekin if a lady is going to break the leg, then they are worried that the husband or the mother is going, or the father is going to call and say, what have you done? Why is she, have you done something and all? It's very standard, and it's very general to do like that. But honestly, we need acceptance at all levels. We don't need to be patronized. We have to be accepted for the knowledge that we have. We do have men who refuse women's authority. It's happened to me personally. I've had somebody to leave the job after negotiating for 1 year, because he turned around in 3 months and said, I can't accept you as a boss. Because I don't know how to, I've never worked under a woman boss before. Everybody needs to understand that we are multitaskers. Sometimes our brains just work better than men's, and there's no harm in that, and there's no ego issue and all. We just land up solving problems a lot more simpler, maybe because we are more direct, and you don't go round and round and round, and sometimes you don't want to get into the whole politics of it and things like that. So having said all of that, it's a wonderful industry. Women, women don't want to join the industry because parents are very protective. What will you do after 6 o'clock in the night? It doesn't help that when you are at the port, you have guards come and ask you, "Aap kyun idhar ho?" You need to leave because it's 6 o'clock in the evening. Why do you need to do that? You don't tell that to the boys, but you tell that to the women. If you make arrangements so that the women are safe over there and they don't have to worry about it. In that respect, I have to say, I know this is a maritime event and we are talking about maritime, but I have to say this, that when it comes to air part of it, it's not different. As in, I have been at the airport at 3 o'clock in the morning, waiting for my flight to come and going. I have stayed at the airport for 2 nights where there have only been men. There was never ever an issue of why she's been here or anything of that sort. There's never been a safety issue. Nobody blinks an eyelid if you walk into a cargo complex. But should you go into an ICD, they still look at you and say, "Aap idhar aa rahe ho, aapko kya aata hai, kya karna hai, kursi, madam ke liye chair dijiye, madam ko chai coffee dijiye." Madam doesn't need chai coffee. You give us a clean bathroom, and we are happy with it, and a bottle of water, we are okay with it. So people are doing things are changing. Having women bosses does make a difference for women. We've had women who've even breastfed in office. We've given them facilities where they could bring their children, breastfeed them, and then the mother-in-laws or the mothers will come and take them away. We have now women at the helms of different organizations. Think of what you didn't think for yourself, because still I didn't hear of a menstrual day off at an event. It didn't even strike me. And for the first time in 26 years of my career, I took a day off. And I went like, I need to take this day off. So I understand when they want to take a day off in my office as to how important that is. So, yes.
Chaitali, sorry to interrupt you, but I want to circle back to this aspect because we have talked now about the mindset, and we're also talking about the physical aspects of being a woman in shipping. And on this, I'd like to ask Dr. Aparajita that, the whole myth, I don't know if it's a myth, is it a myth, that a child gets affected, the development of a child gets affected if the child is separated from the mother, which is a big issue regarding women having babies and then going back to seafaring jobs, as I understand.
Yes, that's a big issue, and generally it's everybody's concern in the family, and of course the mother too. Science has developed a lot, okay? And I think in shipping, I think they get 4 months leave they are given, so during pregnancy and childbirth. As long as you have good caregivers. Generally, it's 3 to 4 months the child is breastfed, and after that the child is weaned off, and as long as you have good attachment figures, good support systems, like grandmoms are there. They act like, secondary moms. So if the mother wants to go back sailing, so there is no issue in that. One is you have internet these days, so you are always connected. You can see your child, and the child is in safe hands. The child has a caregiver, so the security is also there. Ideally, best bonding for a mom and the child about a year is ideal. 2 years is best. But people do learn to, work around it. I had read in a magazine, I think it was the SHIO magazine, I had read that one of the moms, when she gave birth to the child, she negotiated with her company, and they said, okay, you can do 1 contract in a year. As long as you are able to sail for some time and be in touch and you don't lose those skills. And of course, they came into some sort of an understanding as to how do you handle the remunerations, etc., etc. And they were able to grant her that because there was somebody else also who was in a similar situation. It was a male member, male seafarer, and so they could combine that and they could do it. We could use the same, concept, even in seafaring. There are people, who have sailed for many years and they want to still sail, but they don't want to take up very frequent contracts, maybe one contract, two contracts a year. So, you could club these things together and make it, it's both for the mother and the child and the, company. A woman, a seafarer, you go through a lot of training, lot of experience. So to reach at one level, you have really put in a lot of effort. You can't just let it go down the drain. You have to sustain it. So it is also important that the industry sustains it. And you don't want to lose, experience. Senior seafarers have a lot of experience. So ideally, it would be an ideal situation. But yes, children, but seafarers' kids are very independent, very adaptable, very smart. Once they grow up, they are able to handle things, they know things better. And you have a working mom. That's a pride, that's a pride. It's not an easy, seafaring is not an easy job. Not everybody can, join shipping. You have to have that aptitude. Aptitude is very important. Interest is important, aptitude is important. So if a lady has that aptitude and she's come in there, why not? Why not? And so that's how it is.
Okay, so to sum this up, starting with the captains, I'm going to ask each of you to give the top 3 suggestions that you have to improve the career and to help the career options or career path for women seafarers.
I think the first thing would be the recruitment outreach, So organizations, we've spoken in the past group as well. Organizations like, shipping organizations like MASA, FOSMA, INSA, then our unions and colleges, they all have to reach the women who are young, that means maybe in the 8th standard, in schools and things like that. Because right now when we interview people, most of the people, they say that they came to know about shipping from YouTube, or they saw some blogger talk about it. So that's not enough. So that is where I think we lack as a community. All of us have to move in that direction, that is one. And second is, I think there are some of us who are way ahead of the curve, like Karan and his team. And they should be continuously sharing their experiences, their knowledge, and what they have learned, so that others are not reinventing the wheel. It's a lot easier for the others who are shying away from hiring women. And then they will understand why some of the companies hire women and what are the benefits they get by hiring women. And as they always say, women are more empathetic, women are less corrupt, and women are more and women are more in organizations which have women, they have they do much better financially than the others. And the last part is the training part, like Karan spoke about unconscious bias. These kind of trainings is very, very important. Then diversity training, again, what Dr. Abhijit spoke, that is very important. So these kind of things, if we have for the seafarers, ashore and at sea, that will help us, in our role to scale up the pace. And last but not the least, whatever we do has to come right from the top, whether it's from the board or from the CEO or the CEO of the company. It has to come right from top down. Only then it works. At a manager level or any other level, if you try something to do like this, it will never work. So it has to come from top down. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain, for 5 points. I have to request the rest of you because we have exactly 4 minutes. So let's do rapid fire 3 suggestions.
I will just add on this because we've all been speaking right through the day. See, career path for women, there are a lot of verticals which are opening up in the maritime industry. if you see every company, there are a great many openings where we would love to have a seafarer, a woman seafarer, who at some point of her life has decided, due to whatever reason, to come ashore and join. You'll see the surprising thing is, I have been looking for a third engineer or a fourth engineer for the last 2 months. I have not got any. I have not got any. A woman third engineer for, I don't want a guy. A woman. The reason being is that we're trying to give them openings so that if they can come in and maybe take back their careers at a certain point of time. So that's what I would say. There are verticals where there are openings for women now from the maritime industry.
I think first of all we should stop calling it a man's world anymore, because it's no longer a man's world. It's no longer a man's job. As Mrs. Joshi says, that we don't have to have a chip on our shoulder. So if we have women who are propagating the industry, we don't start off, and I'm guilty many a times of this, that we don't start off by saying that there are very few women in the industry. We say that we lack talent in this industry because we need both men and women, and we can't work without them. Also, the third thing is that we need to be practical in where we want women to be situated in different aspects of the maritime transport industry, because there are certain things that women can't do. So if we want them, if they are coming across and telling us to do heavy duty, if they want to do, then we have to have those kind of facilities and trainings given for them. And the most important is that there has to be an awareness of the maritime and transport industry, which is right now very little. So mainstream, whether it is newspapers, it is articles, there are, I don't know, not only YouTube, but even a documentary or something of that sort, that needs to go around. And we have enough experience in this room and in the industry to have at least about 500 hours worth of small short videos to go out. And that's how you're going to interest, because you need to have it both ways, glamour as well as hard work that pays off, and then we could do something.
Adding to that, first point would be to bring the women in the boardrooms. Sir was saying that he needs third engineers. I would say, sir, take engine cadets. You will get the third engineers very soon. You will get them. And like we've seen how when Madam H.K. Joshi was with SCI, Swarna Krishna happened, yes. So we need more women in the boardrooms. And number two would be to address the practical issues which we spoke about. Women-specific, gender-neutral PPE, personal protective equipment to be made available, and the rest of the issues we've pointed out. And number three is to have robust policies when it comes to handling sexual harassment, because there is a lot of power misuse which we have seen when it comes to redressal of these complaints which come up. And these are always done in closed doors because they are sensitive. But then there has to be redressal, and justice needs to be there. It has to happen. So when that happens, I think women will not turn back.
Yeah, I'll just take on from what Reshma has said. On board the ship, it has to be zero tolerance, which means it is not accepted at all. Linked to that is what we call as the bystander intervention, which means if you are a bystander and you are seeing sexual harassment happening and you're not doing anything about it, you become an accomplice. From a psychological aspect, if there is a harassment which is happening on board the ship and you are keeping quiet about it, the harasser becomes even more bolder. So it has to stop. There have been examples in industries ashore where there has been cases of sexual harassment, and if the company has a policy of zero tolerance, whosoever it may be even one of the top executives who's kind of, contributing a lot to the company, they have been asked to go. It is not that they have been transferred to a different branch and away from the place and, allowed the heat to just settle down. No, he was just asked to leave. They said, either you resign or we will ask you to go. So he kind of pleaded and all. So it is a real case. It has happened. That is the kind of attitude we should have. But this is after the sexual harassment. Before the sexual harassment, you need to have psychological safety, which means a woman can just go up to her supervisor and say, look, I'm just not comfortable. There's nothing happening. There's nothing I can point out, but I'm just not very comfortable working with my colleague. So that should be the level of safety. The other thing is inclusion. It's not about inclusion of women. It is also inclusion of men. In fact, more men should come out and talk about gender sensitization. Then the acceptability will become even more. Because there are gender sensitive men who understand these aspects. Just they need a little more training and a little more awareness, and they should also go out. In fact, I tell my boys, when they come for training, I say, it's not in this room. It's not only for your head. You have to go out and talk on the ships. You have to just spread this message. You talk, you tell them to talk. So only then you can. You can't just bring them in the classroom and give them one awareness training and say, wow, it's done and all that. No, it has to go out. How do you do that? Of course, awareness is happening. These kind of courses are happening. I was also thinking of, like small booklets where you just give bullet points, how to behave on the ship. They are not interested in larger picture and all. That also we can add. But what to do at certain junctures, those are the things which they would be more acceptable. The other things can come in later. Right.
Thank you everybody for that fantastic participation, where I'm sorry that we had to keep cutting for time, and I'd like to hand this to you for the audience questions.
So we can take a maximum of 2 questions. Can you pass on the mic, please? There, Peach. Please be mindful of time. We can just take 2 questions.
Yeah, this is Captain Dubey from MMTI. First of all, I thank Captain Chadha for choosing this topic of gender equality in maritime. Very seasonal topic, which is also chosen by IMO. Before I start asking questions, I just want to say what I have done in my institute towards this empowerment of women. Number 1, for all the competency courses, I have put 25% discount to all women candidates. And the second thing is that all my staff in the office, they all are women office staff. So after that, I have got some questions. One is to Reshma. She says that the ships are not built for women on board. I really differ on that. She gave an example of the height, but even male candidates also can be less in height. They can also be shorter. So similarly, many other aspects, I don't really see that the ships are built for male candidates or male officers. Secondly, yes, I agree that physically they may be weak to handle certain conditions on the ship, certain jobs or tasks on the ship, like applying the brake on the running anchor when they're anchoring, handling the ropes. All this was a bit of physical labor is needed, but that is only during the training period. They can always take the help, and they can be with the seaman or AB or OS. So that part can be taken care of. So this is one thing I said. And the second question is to Captain Fadnis about this awareness part. Fully I agree that the awareness about merchant navy is not there in the nooks and corners of India. Many people just don't know about it. One suggestion which I can give is, because a lot of union people also here in this crowd, if it can be conveyed to the government that along with the, Air Force, Indian Navy and military, if the merchant navy also can be covered into Agniveer process, probably there will be more awareness and many people will be ready and willing to join because this get wide publicity. So these are two things I just wanted to tell. Thank you.
Sir, may I respond to that? I still work a lot of ships with shared toilets or common toilets. That is one which I did not want to explicitly say before when I said ships were not built for men. I've had to, put my dignity hanging by, there is no lock as well. I've had to literally find a rope and then go take turns around with the handle of that lock and use the restroom, and my dignity is hanging by that thread. So that is what I meant.
Sorry to interrupt, but there were two topics just now discussed. One was maternity. Second one was the height of females. And both these topics are very interesting to me. We need to look as an industry towards this, and you will find in the medical rules there is specific mention for certain height. And I request Maritime Fraternity to look into this and please rectify that immediately. Second topic was maternity. As the doctor has explained, the period for child's growth, she considers 2 years period to remain with the mother. I would suggest all maritime fraternity to look into the shore side and see what other good companies are doing. I can just say that it can be considered 1 year maternity leave, 6 months is to the mother and 6 months to the father. And believe me, this is not a thought. This is in existence and is happening in all good companies. One of the company is my son's. But all good companies, they have the rule. Thank you.
Paternity leave is still at 15 days at the moment. I think the world has seen a lot of single fathers now. So we can think about how our partners can also play an active role. Ma'am will say.
Yeah, I just want to, it's a very good suggestion. I thought I was, only person who was talking about 1 year, and I was thinking what would be the implications, what would be these company heads thinking, अरे एक साल और छुट्टी देना पड़ेगा क्या और पैसा देना चाहिए कि नहीं देना चाहिए. But it is long term and it is inclusive, okay? I mean, you can be rest assured that the lady or the man, he would be with your company, because now everybody understands the importance of family and the psychological support you need to give to the family. So everybody wants to have all those things, and that's where the world is going now, We are talking about a 4-day week so that we have more quality time at home with our family members. So, look, these are the things which need to be looked at and, all the logistics worked out, but it's not impossible. Sorry, I'm not a seafarer, but I can, that's my opinion.
If I may, excuse me. Okay. Excuse me.
I think they are there for a very long time.
Sir, after me, please. No, there is no first. I was very excited about this topic of maternity, so the dream is into the reality. Yes, my company, Hafnia, BW Tankers, maternity leave, 18 months. Women are very widely, open-heartedly accepted at the same rank, and that has been to be a change which has been brought, and it could be possible. It is possible, it is happening. So
even if they are looking forward for it, when you say opportunities, you need to walk the talk. So it cannot be just talking and talking and talking, because yes, I'm here for last 20 years and it is a drastic change, and I'm happy it is happening. Welcome to the paternity leave as well.
You must advertise this a lot more so that others can also get influenced.
That's why I was trying to be a bit quieter, but when the maternity topic was coming, I was
yeah.
like, no, this is very close to my heart.
I think this, and even the, all women who have sailed across, all these things, we need to put it on. It has to be documented. It has to be circulated. These will speak a lot more about gender equity and, gender equality rather than talk. Yes.
Can I ask you a question? 18 months maternity leave for a female seafarer, fine. Are you paying them during that period? 6 months. That's the standard, correct. Thank you. Which company? Okay, thanks a lot. I got the answer.
I can see it's.
I think that.
I can see it's going to be. It's an overwhelming discussion that's happening, but please be mindful of time. We are already late for the next session. Captain Arvind, yours is the last one.
Absolutely. And then Captain Halbe, half question.
Don't do that.
We
You
have
can
been
combine
raising
the
hand for
questions
2
and
panels
ask.
now. Half question.
That's match fixing going on out there.
No, but it's amazing. Hats off to them for 18 months of paternity leave. I think that's fabulous. But if you ask me honestly, that is the easier solution to deliver. We can just hire more people and keep people on unpaid leave longer. We need to think differently. We need to think out of the box. If shore employees, all of us working ashore, when we can, when we get maternity and paternity benefits like, child daycare, etc., why can't we extend this to, to the seafaring community? Wait, let me finish. I'm not yet done. Sorry, because I've been holding this thought for a while, and it's the right forum for me to talk to all of you, because you're all influencers in these policy-making events. The second thing is, why not shorter contracts when they come back? A group of vessels which are doing coastal voyages, so supposing there is an emergency at home, they can go back home. And the company must be able to bear these expenses. We're obviously hiring women from our angle as an organization also to, of course, improve society and all of it, which is super important, nation building and all that. But it also creates innovation. It creates a profit center. It is creating profit, and the balance sheet is getting improved. So why not give it back by working a little more harder than just this 18 months? We have to get together and brainstorm. This is just 2 ideas from me. I'm sure there's a lot more ideas in the room. So maybe
I think
somebody...
we can take up few ideas during our networking lunch. Would that be a good idea? Okay, I now call upon Dr. D.N. Rao, Associate Professor from GMU University. Is Captain D.N. Rao here? Dr. D.N. Rao, apologies, sir. So I call you on stage to felicitate our panelists, sir. So in order, our panelist, Dr. Aprajita Bharadwaj. Ms. Reshma Nalofa. Sir, please. Ms. Chaitali Mehta. Captain Girish Padnis. Captain Dinesh Jairam. And last but not the least, the captain of the ship, Ms. Vinita Venkatesh ma'am. I request all panelists to wait back for a group photo.